Thomas Wolfe hated the rich. In his 30 years working in the forestry, he had seen enough of them. They would arrive on weekends in their Lexuses and Merceds with bodyguards, girls, and crates of expensive cognac. They made noise, littered, shot at anything that moved, and then left, leaving behind ravaged clearings, empty bottles, and wounded animals they didn't even bother to take. Hunters, they called themselves. Thomas Wolfe, 57 years old, a forester, had been servicing elite hunting grounds for 8 years. The job was easy: maintain order, show guests where the feeders were, where the animal trails were, don't ask questions, don't meddle in what wasn't his business, and get a good salary, 3 times higher than usual for a forester. The grounds belonged to some Moscow businessman. Thomas didn't even know his name. He only saw the manager, a slippery type named Alex Simmons, who came once a month to check the estate. The guests were no ordinary people: officials, deputies, some business partners. They came for the weekend, occupied the main house, a huge mansion behind a 10-foot fence, and entertained themselves. What happened behind the fence, Thomas didn't know and didn't want to know. His business was the forest, the rest wasn't his. That's what he thought until that night. October turned out cold. The nights already had frosts, hoarfrost on the grass in the morning. The forest was preparing for winter, birds flying away, animals fattening up, trees dropping their last leaves. Thomas loved this time, quiet, thoughtful. You could walk through the forest for hours and not meet a soul, just him, the trees, and the sky. That night he went out on patrol later than usual, delayed, repairing the porch at the watchman's hut. Flashlight on his forehead, rifle on his back, more for show than protection. In 30 years he had never shot at a person. At an animal, yes, but never at a person. He walked the familiar route, from the hut to the stream, from the stream to the old oak, from there along the clearing to the eastern boundary. 2 hours at a leisurely pace, then back. He reached the stream without incident, stopped to drink water. In October it was icy tasty. He sat on a fallen log, took out a thermos with tea, and then heard the crack of branches. Noise: someone or something crashing through the undergrowth. Not an animal, too noisy. An animal moves quietly, cautiously. This was straight through, without regard for the path. Thomas stood up, turned on the flashlight. The beam caught a woman from the darkness. She was running straight at him, barefoot, in a torn dress, hair tangled, face scratched, legs bloody, torn by stones and branches. She saw the light and screamed, not from fear, from hope. She rushed to him, grabbed his jacket. "Help me, God, help me, they're hunting." Thomas grabbed her by the shoulders, held her. "Quiet, quiet, who is hunting? What happened?" The woman looked at him, eyes wild, dilated, filled with animal terror. "They're hunting," she repeated, "on us, they're hunting on us," and she lost consciousness. Thomas carried her in his arms 2 kilometers to the hut. Light as a feather, thin, emaciated. The dress, once expensive, silk, torn to shreds, bruises on her wrists like from ropes. Who was she? Where from? What kind of hunt? Questions swarmed in his head, but Thomas pushed them away. First help, then figure it out. In the hut, he laid her on the bed, covered her with a blanket, lit a fire in the stove. The night was cold, she'd freeze. He treated the wounds on her legs, deep cuts but nothing fatal. The woman came to after an hour. She opened her eyes, jerked, tried to get up. "Quiet," said Thomas. "You're safe, I'm the forester, my name is Thomas." She looked at him distrustfully, warily. "Where am I?" "In my hut in the forest, 3 kilometers from the hunting lodge." "Hunting lodge?" She shuddered, her eyes filled with fear again. "They'll find me, they always find me." "Who are they?" The woman was silent, staring at the fire in the stove, blankly, detachedly. "My name is Alice," she said finally. "Alice Smith, I'm 26 years old, I'm from Moscow." "How did you end up here?" A long heavy pause. "He brought me, Robert, said it was a surprise, a romantic weekend in nature." "Robert who?" "Crimson, Robert Crimson, a State Duma deputy." Thomas knew that name. Crimson was a frequent guest at the grounds, came several times a year, always with a company. Tall, imposing, with gray temples, smiled broadly, confidently, the smile of a man used to getting everything he wanted. "You're his girlfriend." Alice smirked bitterly, without mirth. I thought it was love, I thought he loved me, but in reality," she looked at him directly, heavily, "in reality I'm prey, we're all prey." The story Alice told was impossible. Thomas listened and didn't believe, couldn't believe. Such things happen only in movies, in books, not in real life, not here in his forest. But the woman sat before him, alive, trembling, with wounds on her legs, bruises on her wrists. She wasn't lying, couldn't lie, you couldn't make that up. We met 6 months ago, Alice recounted, at a charity event. I was working as a waitress earning extra while studying. He approached, started talking. Charming, attentive, said I was beautiful, invited me to dinner. And you agreed. Of course, he's a deputy, rich, successful. Every girl dreams of that. She fell silent, staring into the fire. The first months were a fairy tale: restaurants, gifts, trips, Paris, Milan, Maldives. I quit my job, quit studying. Why, I had him. And then he brought me here a week ago, said he'd introduce me to friends, a special weekend. Alice wrapped her arms around herself as if freezing. Friends like him, rich, important, and their wives, beautiful, cold, looked at me like a thing. What happened? Evening dinner, lots of wine, lots of talk. Then his wife Victoria took me aside, said, "Tomorrow the game, you're a participant." What game? Alice raised her eyes, the horror in them unrelenting. "The hunt," she said, "hunt on us." The rules were simple. The girls' prey were released into the forest at dawn, given an hour's head start, then the hunt began. The men, hunters, pursued on horseback with dogs. Each had his color: red, blue, green. The girls were marked with ribbons of the same color. Whoever caught his prey got a prize. What prize? Asked Thomas. Alice didn't answer, just looked, and he understood. There were 4 of us, she continued. Me, Marina, Svetlana, and Emily. Emily. Thomas flinched. The name hit like a blow. Emily, yes, beautiful, red-haired, young, about 20, no more. She cried all night, said she had a father at home, he'd look for her. Thomas felt a chill inside. Emily, red-haired, 20 years old, father. His daughter Emily had disappeared 3 years ago. Red-haired, beautiful, went to Moscow to seek fortune. Called the first months, then went silent. Phone off, address unknown. Thomas searched, went to Moscow, visited police stations. Adult has the right, they said, maybe just doesn't want to communicate. They took the statement, but without enthusiasm. Thousands of missing young women, can't find them all. 3 years, no word, no sign. Thomas had almost resigned himself, almost believed she was alive, just forgot about him. And now he sat in his hut, listening to a story about a girl named Emily. What happened to her? He asked, his voice foreign, hoarse. To Emily. Alice lowered her eyes. She didn't escape, they caught her. What do you mean caught? Caught, red was his crimson. He caught up with her at the ravine. I saw from afar, she screamed. Silence heavy, oppressive. What then? I don't know, they took us back to the lodge. I didn't see Emily again. Thomas stood up, went to the window, looked into the darkness. This hunt, he said without turning, is it regular? I don't know, but the girls in the lodge, Victoria said they were new ones, meaning there were others before us. How many? I don't know, many probably. They don't leave witnesses. Thomas turned, but you escaped. Lucky, at night the guards got drunk. I climbed out the window, ran into the forest, didn't know where, just ran, then found you. She looked at him with hope, with plea. You'll help me, please, they're looking for me. If they find me, they'll kill me. Thomas looked at her, a young woman who had accidentally survived a nightmare. I'll help, he said, but first I need to check something. Thomas didn't sleep until dawn, sat by the window, looked into the darkness. Alice dozed off in an anxious sleep on the bed, twitching, whimpering, afraid even in sleep. His head buzzed with thoughts. Human hunt here in his forest under his nose, and he saw nothing, noticed nothing, or didn't want to notice. 8 years he worked on these grounds. 8 years he watched rich guests arrive, how the gates closed behind them at the mansion, sometimes heard screams at night, thought drunken entertainments, not his forest, didn't ask. And what if not entertainment? What if those screams were cries for help? Thomas shook his head. Enough, can't change the past, need to think about the present. Alice said there were 4 girls, she escaped, the others didn't. What about them, alive, dead? And his Emily? That same Emily he searched for 3 years, whom he mourned without knowing if she was alive or not. Now he knows, almost knows, need to check, find evidence, then act. At dawn Thomas woke Alice. You need to hide, it's not safe here. Where? There's a place, an old hunting cabin 5 kilometers from here, they won't find you there. Alice looked at him, still scared but with a glimmer of hope. And you? I'll go to the forest, check something. Thomas hesitated. You said they don't leave witnesses, meaning the girls they catch disappear forever.
Yes.
Bodies need to be disposed of somewhere, buried, burned, something. In this forest, I know every inch. If there's something, I'll find it. Alice paled. You think they're there? Marina, Svetlana, Emily. I don't know, but I'll find out. They reached the cabin in an hour. The place was remote, abandoned. Once an old gamekeeper lived there, died 20 years ago. Since then, no one visited. Roof leaky, walls blackened, but inside dry can hide. Thomas left food, water, warm clothes. Sit quietly, don't go out, don't make noise, I'll be back by evening. And if you don't come back. He looked at her directly, seriously. I will, I promise. And he left into the forest, into the unknown. Thomas searched all day, walked the grounds methodically, square by square. He knew this forest like the back of his hand, every path, every ravine, every clearing. Searched for what he didn't know himself, traces, clues, graves, anything. By noon, nothing, forest as forest, trees, bushes, animal trails, no signs of what he was looking for. Maybe Alice was wrong, maybe the girls are taken somewhere, sold, hidden. No, she said clearly, don't leave witnesses, meaning kill. And bodies somewhere here. Thomas stopped, thought, if he were hiding bodies where, not close to the mansion, too risky, not on paths, might be found by random people, far corner of the grounds, ravines on the eastern boundary, wilderness there, windfalls. Even Thomas rarely went there, nothing to do, animals don't go, people even less, perfect place. He turned east. Reached the ravines by 3 o'clock. Gloomy, uncomfortable place, deep depressions overgrown with blackberries and nettles. Sun barely penetrated, even at noon, twilight reigned. Thomas descended into the first ravine, walked, looked, sniffed, nothing. Second ravine empty too. Third. In the third, he smelled it, faint but recognizable. 30 years in the forest taught him to distinguish. That's how an animal smells after lying under snow all winter. That's how carrion smells, that's how death smells. Thomas followed the smell slowly, cautiously, pushing through bushes, climbing over fallen trunks. And found it. A small clearing hidden on all sides, earth loose, dug up, mounds, 7 of them, one after another, graves. Thomas stood and couldn't breathe. 7 graves, 7 mounds, 7 women. He knelt by the nearest, took out a knife, began digging carefully, slowly. At a depth of half a meter, his hand touched fabric. Dug further, uncovered a body, female, young, clothes, a dress, once beautiful, face unrecognizable, lay too long. Thomas recoiled, he vomited long, painfully. Then forced himself to return, check the others. Dug one after another, 5 graves out of 7, 5 bodies, all women, all young. The 6th grave deeper than the others. Thomas dug, hands trembling more and more. Fabric appeared red bright. Emily loved red, always wore something red, scarf, bag, dress. It's my color, Dad, she said. Thomas dug, no longer feeling his hands, feeling nothing. The face appeared, red hair, dirty, tangled but red, features familiar, dear. Emily, his girl. Thomas didn't remember how he got out of the ravine, sat on the edge, looked at the sky, hands in dirt, in mud, face wet with tears. 3 years he searched for her, 3 years he hoped, believed, 3 years he told himself she was alive, just didn't call, had her own life. And she was here all this time, here in a pit, in the ground, in his forest, killed by those he guarded, for whom he worked, whose money he took. Thomas stood up, legs didn't hold, but he forced himself to stand. Enough tears, enough grief, there would be time later, now need to act. They'll pay, all of them will pay. Back at the cabin by evening, Alice waited, pale, tense, saw his face and understood everything. You found. Found. How many? 7 graves. Alice covered her face with her hands. God, God. Thomas sat on the bench, stared at the wall blankly. Emily is there, my daughter, I found her. Silence long, terrible. Your daughter. Alice raised her head. So Emily, that was my daughter, Emily Wolfe, 23 years old, disappeared 3 years ago. I didn't know, she talked about her father, but she didn't know I was here, that I worked for them. Thomas smirked bitterly, terribly. What irony, guarded the grounds where they killed my daughter. Alice was silent, what to say. We need to report to the police, she said finally. No. Why? Crimson is a deputy, he has connections everywhere. Local police are bought, I'm sure. If we report, they'll hush it up, evidence will disappear, us too. Then what to do? Thomas thought long hard. FSB, he said finally. Federals, the case is too big, deputy murders, locals couldn't handle it even if they wanted. You know someone in FSB? No, but I'll find. That night Thomas didn't sleep again, sat by the window, looked at the stars, thought about Emily. Remembered her as a child, learning to walk, saying her first word, going to school with a huge bow, new backpack. How she fell in love with a classmate in 8th grade and cried when he dumped her. How she graduated with honors with plans for the future. How she went to Moscow against his will, against all advice. Dad, I want to live to try, you don't understand. He didn't understand, didn't want to let go but let her go, and lost her. How did she end up with them? How did she end up here in this nightmare? Alice said Crimson finds girls at parties, clubs, beautiful, lonely, without connections, courts them, gives gifts, then brings here. Emily was beautiful, beautiful and naive, dreamed of a rich life, a prince on a white horse, found a monster. Thomas clenched his fists, nails digging into palms until blood. He'll find them all, find and destroy. In the morning he started acting. First photographs, returned to the ravine, photographed everything, graves, bodies, place, evidence. Then hid the phone with photos in a safe place. If something happens to him, evidence remains. Then began thinking how to contact the Federals. No internet in the hut, phone only local landline, calling on it dangerous, they might be listening. Need to go to town, to the district center, to the FSB office. But how? Town 50 kilometers away, no car, bus once a day and not sure. Can't leave Alice, they'll find her, taking her risky, they're looking for her surely. Stalemate. Solution came by evening. Thomas remembered Simmons, the manager, comes once a month, last time 2 weeks ago, so soon again. Simmons has a car, if neutralize him can take the car and go. Risky, Simmons not alone, usually with a bodyguard, but no other options. Thomas took out the rifle, checked, loaded, in order. 30 years didn't shoot at a person, now he would have to. Simmons arrived 3 days later, black Land Cruiser as usual, bodyguard driving, Simmons in the back seat. Thomas waited at the gates as always in forester uniform, rifle on back, nothing suspicious. Hello, Thomas. Simmons got out of the car, extended his hand. How's the situation? Normal, quiet, no guests since last weekend. Simmons nodded, went to the mansion to check the estate. Thomas followed, waiting for the moment. The bodyguard stayed by the car, smoking, looking at his phone, not paying attention. Simmons entered the mansion, Thomas behind him. Listen, said Simmons, surveying the hall, next weekend important guests, prepare everything as usual. What guests? Crimson with company, you know they like special entertainments. Special entertainments. The hunt, of course, said Thomas, I'll prepare. And he struck with the rifle butt to the temple. Simmons collapsed without a sound. Thomas stood over him, rifle in hands. Heart pounding, first step done. He stunned the bodyguard by the car, snuck up from behind, hit on the head. He fell, wheezed. Tied both with rope, tight, gagged mouths, locked in the mansion basement. Took car keys, phones too. Returned for Alice. We're going, he said, to town, to FSB. To town, 50 kilometers. Thomas drove the Land Cruiser on the bumpy forest road, gripping the wheel. Next to him Alice, pale, silent, looking out the window at the flashing trees. October morning, gray, damp, fog spread over the ground, clung to bushes, visibility 20 meters, no more. They'll look, said Alice. When Simmons doesn't check in, they'll realize something's wrong. I know, so we're hurrying. And if they already know, if they're watching. Thomas looked in the rearview mirror, empty, only fog and trees, not yet, but little time. They came out onto asphalt, an old district road pitted with potholes. Thomas sped up as much as the surface allowed. In his head, a simple but risky plan: get to town, find FSB office, tell everything, show photos, let them handle it. If they believe, if Crimson doesn't hush it up. Crimson, deputy, connections, money, power, can buy anyone, police, prosecutors, judges, maybe FSB too. Thomas pushed the thought away, can't think bad, need to act. After half an hour, first problem. Ahead on the roadside, a police car with flashers, two in uniform standing by looking at the road. Alice gripped the armrest. That's for us. Don't know, maybe regular patrol. And if not? Thomas slowed down. Options: turn around suspicious, bypass no way, stop risky. Decided to drive as if nothing. Ordinary driver, ordinary trip. Pulled level with the patrol. One raised his hand, waved the baton. Stop. Thomas pulled over, heart pounding. Policeman approached the window. Young, about 30, face indifferent, bored. Documents. Thomas took out license, handed it. Policeman looked, compared with face. Where to? To town on business. Whose car? Service, I'm a forester, work on hunting grounds. Policeman looked into the cabin, saw Alice, lingered gaze. And this? Niece visiting. Alice smiled, strained, unconvincingly. Policeman looked at her attentively, appraisingly. Get out of the car, both. Thomas went cold. They know, or just a check? Got out. Alice followed. Stood by the car while policeman inspected the interior. What are you carrying? Nothing special, personal things. Policeman opened trunk, empty. Thomas took nothing extra. Okay, you can go. Thomas exhaled, got in the car, started the engine, hands shaking. Got away, whispered Alice. So far, yes, let's go. In the mirror, policemen watched after. One took out phone, started calling. Bad sign, very bad. 20 kilometers to town when they saw ahead at the intersection another car, not police, black SUV with tinted windows, stood across the road blocking the way. Thomas stopped. That's them, said Alice, voice dead, hopeless. Found us. Don't panic. What to do? Thomas looked around, left forest, right field, behind road they came on. Options: ram, stupid, they surely have weapons, bypass no place, retreat, they'll catch up. Remains the forest. Run, he said, on my command, jump out and run to the forest. They'll catch up. In the forest, my rules, I know it better than them. Open door slowly, cautiously. Alice did the same. From the SUV, people got out, 3 in black with weapons, professionals visible by movements, by bearing. Wolf shouted one, stop, hands behind head. Thomas didn't listen, grabbed Alice by the hand and ran into the forest, into the fog, into the unknown. They ran without regard for path, branches whipped faces, roots tripped feet. Alice gasped, stumbled. Thomas dragged her along. Behind, shouts, stomping, pursuers not lagging. There. Thomas turned into a ravine, pulled Alice down. They rolled down the slope, jumped up, ran further across a stream, through windfall, through thickets. Thomas knew these places, every path, every stone, his territory. Turned again into a narrow cleft between rocks, squeezed through, helped Alice, came out on the other side of the hill. Stomping, stayed behind, lost the trail. Don't stop, said Thomas. Another kilometer, there's an old dugout, we'll hide there. The dugout remained from war times, dug into the hill slope, camouflaged with bushes. Thomas found it 20 years ago, accidentally on patrol, since then used as a cache, stored supplies just in case, now useful. Inside, tight, dark, earth walls, low ceiling, smelled of damp and old wood. Thomas lit a candle. Alice sat on a crate, breathing heavily. Who was that, she asked. Police. No, private security, probably, Crimson's people. How did they find us? Police on the road, apparently reported. Crimson knows everyone in the area. What now? Thomas thought, plan failed, can't get to town, roads blocked, car lost, they're on the run, without communication, without transport. But photos with him on the phone, that's the main thing. Need another way, he said, through the forest to the neighboring district, 30 kilometers, they're different police, different people. 30 kilometers on foot. Yes, we'll take a day, maybe 2, but no other way. Alice was silent, looked at the candle, eyes dancing with shadows. They won't stop, she said. Crimson won't stop, he'll kill us. He won't, while I'm alive he won't. Thomas took out supplies from the crate, cans, water, knife, packed in a backpack. Rest, we leave in an hour. They walked all day through forest, through swamp, through windfalls. Thomas led confidently, without error, 30 years not in vain. Alice held up, didn't complain, didn't ask to stop, just silent, teeth clenched. By evening, reached the border of the neighboring district, another 10 kilometers to town. "We'll overnight here," said Thomas, "move on at dawn." Found shelter under an uprooted old spruce, lit a small fire, warmed up 8 cans bread. "Tell me about her," asked Alice. "About Emily." Thomas was silent long hard. "She was sunny," he said finally. "Always smiled, always laughed, even when bad found a reason to rejoice." "You loved her very much." "Love still." He looked into the fire. "When she was born, I understood why I live, why all this work, home, family for her. And her mother died long ago when Emily was 10, cancer, we were left alone. And you raised her." "As I could, not ideally probably, worked a lot, home little, but tried everything for her." Alice looked at him with sympathy, with pain. "She knew you loved her, believe me, she knew." That night they didn't sleep. Thomas kept watch, listened to the forest, every rustle like an alarm, every branch crack like an enemy step. But no one broke away for now. At dawn, moved on, last kilometers the hardest. Alice barely walked, stumbled every step. Thomas supported, dragged. By noon came out to the road. Asphalt, cars, civilization. "Town 3 kilometers," said Thomas, "we'll make it." Walked on the shoulder, cars passed, honked. 2 ragged, dirty people, strange sight, but no one stopped, and good. Reached town by 1 o'clock. Small district center, 10,000 population. 3 streets, administration, stores, church and police station with FSB sign on the 2nd floor. "Here," said Thomas. Alice looked at the building with hope, with fear. "And if they don't believe?" "They will, we have evidence." Climbed the steps, entered. Duty officer, young guy in uniform, looked at them surprised. "You to whom?" "To the chief," said Thomas. "Urgent matter, murder, many murders." Chief's office, small, cramped, desk, 2 chairs, cabinet with folders. On the wall, president's portrait, flag, window barred, overlooks the yard. Behind the desk, a man about 50, gray-haired, heavy, with a tired face. Lieutenant Colonel George Silver, as he introduced himself, looked at Thomas and Alice warily, distrustfully. "So," he said, "tell from the beginning." Thomas told everything from the moment he found Alice in the forest. About the hunt, about the girls, about the graves, about Crimson, about his wife, about special entertainments. Silver listened without interrupting, without commenting, only sometimes noted something in a notebook. When Thomas finished, silence long, heavy. "This is a serious accusation," said Silver finally. "State Duma deputy organizing murders, you understand what you're saying." "I understand." "You have evidence." Thomas took out phone, opened gallery, showed photos of graves, of bodies. Silver looked, face hardening with each shot. "Where is this?" "Hunting grounds in Tver region, far corner, ravines on eastern boundary, can show coordinates on map." "How many bodies?" 7, all young women." Silver leaned back in his chair. Rubbed his face with hands. This is not district level, this is federal." "I know, that's why I came to you." "Why not local police, closer there?" "Crimson controls local police, they work for him." Silver nodded slowly, understandingly. "Suppose, but I can't just start an investigation, need checks, approvals." "How much time?" "A day, maybe 2, need to contact Moscow, get sanction." "In 2 days they'll destroy everything, bodies removed, traces swept." "I understand, but procedure is procedure." Thomas clenched fists. "Bureaucracy, even here bureaucracy." "My daughter," he said, "is there, my daughter, I recognized her. Searched 3 years, 3 years didn't know, and she lay in a pit all this time." Silver looked at him long, intently. "I believe you," he said finally. "Don't know why, but I believe, I'll do all I can, but need time." "How much?" "By evening I'll try to speed up." They placed them in a small hotel on the outskirts, 2 rooms, guard at doors. "For your safety," said Silver. Thomas sat on the bed, stared at the wall. Alice in the next room, resting. Wait again, wait, whole life waiting. Waited for Emily to be born, to grow, to return from Moscow, didn't wait. Now waits for justice, will he wait? Crimson no fool, surely already knows Thomas escaped, reached federals, showed photos. What will he do, hide, flee abroad, or try to interfere? Money solves a lot, connections even more, deputy immunity almost everything. But not everything, there are things you can't buy, truth is one of them. Thomas lay on the bed, closed eyes, need to rest, gather strength, much ahead. Knock on door woke him. Thomas jumped up instantly, 30 years in forest taught light sleep, quick wake. Who? Silver open. Opened, Lieutenant Colonel stood in corridor, agitated, phone in hand. Got sanction, he said, from Moscow, taking the case under control. When start? Already started, group flying from Moscow, be here in 3 hours, then we move to the grounds. Thomas exhaled, finally. I'm going with you. Not advisable, dangerous. Don't care, my daughter there, I must be near. Silver hesitated, then nodded. Okay, but stay aside, don't interfere with work, deal. Deal. Group from Moscow, 12 people, special forces, criminologists, investigator, serious people, serious equipment. Investigator Colonel John Sparks, lean, wiry with a keen gaze. Questioned Thomas again, quick, professional, same questions, same answers. You're sure of coordinates? Absolutely, know this forest 30 years. Security on grounds. Several people armed. Simmons the manager where? In mansion basement, tied if not found. Sparks nodded, we're going. Reach the grounds by night. Convoy 3 cars, no flashers, no sirens, quiet, unnoticed. Stopped a kilometer from mansion, further on foot. Thomas went with group in tail, as ordered, watched special forces dissolve in darkness noiselessly, professionally. 20 minutes later on radio, object under control, no resistance. Went further to mansion. Building dark, quiet, windows not lit, gates open. Inside chaos, furniture overturned, papers scattered, someone left in haste. Special forces reported, 2 found in basement, tied, conscious. Simmons and bodyguard. Anyone else? No, empty. Crimson escaped, made it. To graves went at dawn. Thomas led by memory without error. Ravines, windfalls, blackberries, criminologists followed with equipment, cameras. Found where he left, 7 mounds, 7 graves. Sparks stood over them silently, motionless, face gray, frozen. Begin, he said. Criminologists to work, photos, measurements, exhumation. Thomas watched as they lifted bodies one by one, young women once beautiful. 6th grave, red dress. Criminologist carefully, gently lifted remains placed on stretcher. Thomas approached, stood nearby, looked at what remained of his girl, his sunshine. Forgive, he whispered, forgive I didn't protect, forgive I didn't find sooner. Tears flowed down cheeks, he didn't wipe. I'll find them all, find and they'll pay for you, for all they'll pay. By evening, work done, 7 bodies packed, taken for expertise for identification. Mansion sealed, territory cordoned. Simmons detained, gave testimony willingly in detail, understood rat drowning first, better rat out all than sit alone. Told everything about hunt, about clients, about rates. Named names, deputies, businessmen, officials, 12 people, regular participants. Crimson organizer, he and wife Victoria found girls, Victor invited guests. How long this going? 5 years, maybe longer, I work 3 years. How many victims? Don't know exactly, many, not all buried here, some taken away. Where? Don't know, truth don't know. Sparks noted, darken with each word. Crimson knew we were coming. Apparently yes, left last night. Where? Didn't say. Wife with him. Yes. So escaped both. Thomas sat in car, waited, all over or just beginning. Bodies found, witnesses questioned, evidence collected, case opened, search announced. But Crimson at large, somewhere out there far with money, with connections. Will they find, or disappear, dissolve, go to some country without extradition, live in luxury? Happens often, rich escape punishment, poor pay. But not this time, Thomas swore, if system fails he'll handle it himself. Alice waited at hotel, pale, exhausted but alive, that's Maine. Found, she asked. Found all 7 and Emily, yes, and her. Alice approached, hugged him silently tight. I'm so sorry, she whispered, so sorry. I know. Stood like that a minute, 2 people bound by common nightmare. Then Alice pulled away, what now? Now wait, Crimson escaped, they're looking, we'll find soon. And if not? Thomas looked at her directly, firmly, we'll find, one way or another we'll find. Next days blurred into one: interrogations, protocols, confrontations. Thomas told same thing 10 times 20 to investigators, prosecutors, some men in civilian. Alice too, her testimony key, she's victim witness, saw Hunt with own eyes. Simmons sang like a nightingale, ratted out all names, dates, amounts, drew schemes, gave addresses. 12 clients arrested one by one, deputies, businessmen, official from president's administration. Scandal across the country. Only Crimson remained free, searched nationwide, worldwide, Interpol, red notice, photos at all airports, all borders. So far no result. A week later, call from Sparks. News. Found. No, but Trace tried to fly from Minsk, cameras spotted. And slipped away, apparently realized, exposed, changed documents, disappeared. Where presumably. Turkey, from there anywhere. Thomas gripped phone, he'll get away. We'll try not to let, but no guarantee. No guarantee, that's it. Thomas hung up, looked out window at gray sky, bare trees. Crimson somewhere out there, alive, free, drinks coffee on terrace, admires view, and Emily in morgue in fridge under number. Is that justice? Funeral set for Friday, small cemetery on outskirts next to wife's grave, Emily's mother. Few people, Thomas, Alice, several neighbors, priest, old with kind face. Day cold, windy, October leaving, November coming. Coffin closed, Thomas didn't want to look at what remained. Priest read prayer, words floated by, not touching. Thomas looked at grave, mound of earth, wooden cross, Wolf, Emily, 1997 to 2021, beloved daughter. Beloved only lost. Goodbye sunshine, he whispered, I'll find you there later, find. Threw handful of earth on coffin, stepped back. After funeral, sat in cafe, Thomas, Alice, Sparks, drank vodka silently without toasts. What's next, asked Thomas. Investigation continues, answered Sparks. Identified 5 victims out of 7, all missing without trace last 4 years. And the rest? Working, checking databases, comparing DNA. Crimson. Searching, Turkish colleagues helping. Thomas nodded, finished vodka, set glass. I want to help, he said, how I can. You already helped, without you nothing would be. Not enough, I want to find him personally. Sparks looked at him long, appraisingly. This not your job. This is my daughter. My job. Silence, Sparks twirled glass in fingers. I understand you, he said finally, but law is law, vigilantism not way out. I'm not planning, just want to know when, find, tell me first. Why? To look him in eyes once, that's enough. Sparks nodded, deal. A month passed, Thomas returned to his hut, the same where it all started. Couldn't work on those grounds anymore, they were sealed, investigation ongoing, but home remained home. Sat on porch, looked at forest, same trees, only everything changed. Now he knew what hid behind mansion fence. Knew and couldn't forget. Every night dreamed of Emily, little laughing, runs to him across clearing, arms spread, dad, dad. He tries to catch her, can't, she disappears, dissolves, only emptiness remains. Woke in sweat with scream, then sat till dawn, smoked, looked into darkness. Alice called every day, she stayed in town, rented room, gave testimony to investigators. Voice tired but firm. How are you? Fine, holding up. News. No, silent. Silent. Crimson as if vanished into thin air. Turkey, Egypt, UAE, traces led different directions, lost in infinity. He has money, millions, maybe billions, with such money can disappear forever, buy new documents, new face, new life. Thomas understood, chances of finding fade every day. System works slowly, cumbersome, and Crimson fast, cunning. Need to do something himself. Idea came at night. Thomas lay sleepless, stared at ceiling, thought about Crimson, about his wife, about the scheme. Victoria, the wife, she found girls, processed, prepared, brought. How found, where searched? Alice said met at charity event. Victoria there, approached, talked, introduced to husband. Charity, beautiful rapper for dirty business. If Victoria searched girls at events means there were other helpers, accomplices, some still free. In morning Thomas called Sparks. Victoria, Crimson, what known about her? A lot she main organizer, found victims negotiated with clients. Alone. No network several people in different cities. Arrested them. Pause long unpleasant. Not all some disappeared with crimsons. How many? 3 2 women and a man, closest assistants. Names. Why you? Wanna understand scheme, connections might be useful. Sparks' silent thought. Okay, he said finally, come show what there is. In Sparks' office, folders, testimonies, photos, schemes, month of work, hundreds pages. Sparks laid out 3 photos before Thomas. Here they are, closest circle. First woman about 40, groomed, cold gaze like reptile, Elena Markham. Former model, now owner of modeling agency in Moscow, through her found some girls. Second man about 50, plump, bald with oily eyes, Boris Croft. Businessman, owner of nightclubs chain, provided venues for meetings. Third woman about 30, beautiful, bright, smiles broadly, insincerely, Anna Soloway. Personal assistant to Victoria, right hand. Thomas looked at faces, memorized. Where are they now? Unknown, disappeared simultaneously with Crimson's, presumably together. So Crimson not alone. No, group of 5, Crimson, Victoria, these 3. Where could they go? Sparks sighed. Anywhere. They have money, connections, could be anywhere from Thailand to Argentina. And what you doing? All we can. Interpol requests monitoring, but resources limited. We have dozens cases, this one of many. One of many for Sparks statistics, for Thomas life. In evening, sat in hotel, thought 5 people, somewhere hiding together or apart, doesn't matter, main alive, free. How find official channels not working, too slow, too bureaucratic. Need another way. Thomas took out phone, opened browser, started searching. Elena Markham, modeling agency style, Moscow. Site bright, beautiful model photos, contacts, address. Agency closed, but info remained. Boris Croft, clubs chain, night, St. Petersburg, Moscow, Sochi, clubs operating. Croft officially wanted, but business continues, someone managing. Anna Soloway, social networks empty, abandoned, last post 2 months ago. Traces weak, but traces. Thomas noted, analyzed, 30 years in forest, taught to search by slightest signs, find needle in haystack, animal leaves trace, person too, just need know where to look. Next day went to Moscow, big city, noisy. Thomas didn't like Moscow, too many people, too little air, but need. First address, Markham's modeling agency, office in business center on Tverskaya, closed, sealed. But guard in lobby. Thomas approached, showed Forrester ID, smiled as he could. Good day, looking for Elena Markham, she owes me. Guard, guy about 20, looked bored, no Markham, long time, left somewhere. Where? Not reporting to me. And who's in charge now? No one, office closed, some problems they had, investigators came. Investigators means searched here too. Girls models they wear. Scattered who wear, some in other agencies probably. Anyone close knew Markham. Guard thought was one, Kira Novik, she here often friends with Markham, but also long not appeared. Kira Novik, another name. Thanks. Kira Novik, found on social networks, model, 24 years, photos glossy, beautiful, last post week ago, alive, active. Thomas wrote message, introduced as journalist working on article about modeling business, asked for meeting. Reply an hour, okay, tomorrow, cafe on Patriarchs, 2 p.m. Kira turned out tall, blonde with wary eyes, sat in cafe. Thomas drank coffee, she some green cocktail, talked. You knew Elena Markham? Knew, worked for her 3 years. What was she like? Kira winced, tough, cold but professional, knew how to find girls, promote careers. Find girls? Yeah, she had a nose, saw potential where others didn't, picked beautiful, young, without connections. Without connections, keywords. And then what happened to them? Kira hesitated, varied, some became models, others. She fell silent. Others what? Disappeared, left somewhere, Elena said foreign contracts, but. Kira lowered eyes, none returned, didn't call. You didn't think it strange? Thought, but not my business, I just model, paid me, I worked. Thomas looked at her, young, beautiful, same prey as Emily, just luckier. You know where Markham now? No, disappeared month ago, no one knows where. And she had close ones, friends, relatives. Kira thought, was sister younger, they didn't get along much but met sometimes. Name? Olga. Olga Markham, lives somewhere in suburbs I think. Olga Markham, another trace. Found Olga Markham 2 days later. Lived in Kimki, ordinary panel 9th-story, worked as accountant, lived alone, complete opposite of sister, modest, unnoticeable. Thomas rang door, opened woman about 35, tired in house robe. You who? Thomas Wolfe, wanna talk about your sister. You from police? No, father of one victim. Olga paled, stepped back. I know nothing, didn't know what she. I know, can I come in? Hesitated, then nodded. Sat in kitchen, small, poor. Olga smoked one after another, nervously. I didn't know, she repeated. Truth, didn't know, thought regular modeling business. When last saw sister? Month ago, before she disappeared. She say anything, we're going. Olga silent, crumpled cigarette in fingers. She was scared, said finally. Very scared, said need to leave urgently. Where? Didn't say, only, Olga hesitated, mentioned some place where she rested with friends before. They won't find us there, she said. What place? Don't know exactly, somewhere south I think by sea. By sea south too vague. She didn't specify, city country. Olga thought, wrinkled forehead recalled. Abkhazia, she said suddenly. Yes, Abkhazia, she went there several times, said good there, calm, no one pries into Seoul. Abkhazia, unrecognized republic, border almost open, documents barely checked, perfect place to hide. Thomas returned to hotel with info, with plan. Abkhazia, 5 people somewhere there hiding, waiting till settles. Go there alone without support, pure madness. But no other way, official channels not working, Sparks bound hand and foot by bureaucracy. And Crimson there, somewhere there, man who killed his daughter. Thomas took out phone, called Alice. Hello. Thomas, I know where they are, Crimson and the rest. Pause long. Where? Found doesn't matter how, matters that found. And what now? Going there. Where? Abkhazia, they're there. Another pause. You crazy, said Alice, dangerous, 5 of them with security. I know. You're alone without weapons, without support. I know. Then why? Thomas looked out window at Moscow lights, endless stream of cars. Because it's my duty to Emily, to all they killed. Not duty, suicide. Maybe, but I must try. Silence long, heavy. I'm going with you, said Alice. No. Yes, they hunted me, I have right too. Dangerous. Don't care, I'm going. Thomas wanted to argue, couldn't, in her voice same steel as in his. Okay, he said, leave tomorrow. To Abkhazia, got in 2 days, first train to Sochi, then minibus to border, then on foot through checkpoint Sioux. Border formality, passports glanced, stamp put, no questions, no checks, perfect place to hide. Gagra met with empty beaches and peeling sanatoriums, November dead season, no tourists, few locals. Town like ghost. Settled in private sector, small house by sea, rented by old lady for pennies. For long, she asked. As it goes, answered Thomas. Started searching immediately, 5 people not needle in haystack, rich, noticeable, somewhere live, eat byproducts. Thomas walked villages, asked, showed photos casually as if in passing, seen, my friends lost. Locals looked warily, shrugged, not seen, don't know. Alice worked differently, beautiful, young, she easily started talks in stores, cafes, market. Looking for work, heard rich Russians rest here, maybe someone needs helper. On 3rd day, hook, seller at market, plump woman with sly eyes nodded at Victoria's photo. Saw this one came week ago, bought products, lots expensive. Where lives? Don't know, but car noticeable, white Lexus, such one in whole district. White Lexus, already something. Found car next day, stood at gates of big house on hill with sea view, mansion new behind high fence, cameras, security, serious protection. Thomas observed from afar with binoculars from trees. In yard movement, people walk, talk, men, women, 5 people as assumed. Crimson came out on terrace, smoked, looked calm, relaxed, no trace of worry, thinks safe, thinks got away. Thomas clenched fists, there he is, killer of his daughter, 30 feet away behind fence, alive content. Wanted to climb over, burst in, tear with bare hands. But can't, security cameras they'll kill. Need plan, smart, precise. An evening conferred in house. What to do, asked Alice. 5+ security, we too. Need help, said Thomas, local police or Russian special services. Local police corrupt, Crimson surely paid. Then Russia, Sparks. Thomas took out phone, dialed. Hello. Sparks, Wolf, I found them. Pause long. Where you? Abkhazia, Gagra, I have exact address. You crazy, foreign territory, we can't just. You can negotiate with Abkhaz colleagues or Georgians through them. That take time. How much? Days, maybe week. Week too long, Crimson might leave, disappear again. I have no week. He might escape. Then watch, don't let leave, but don't interfere yourself, here, that's order. Order easy to say. Try, said Thomas, hung up. Watch 3 days in turns, round clock, Thomas day, Alice evening, noted who comes, who leaves, photographed. On 3rd day, movement, cars in yard, load things, suitcases, bags. Collecting to leave. Thomas went cold, leaving, again leaving. Called Sparks, he didn't answer, busy, unavailable. What to do, can't wait, act dangerous, but if they leave, all in vain. All investigation, all victims in vain. Thomas looked at Alice. They're leaving. Say. Sparks not answering. And now what? Thomas thought fast, feverishly. Need to delay them, at least few hours till Sparks connects. How? Don't know, but think something. Plan born in 5 minutes, crazy, risky, but only one. You go to Gates, said Thomas, say car broke down, need help, distract security. And you? I'll sneak from back, try to block Gates. With what? Find something, main, win time. Alice looked at him seriously, without fear. Dangerous. I know. We might die. Might, but if they go, all in vain, Emily in vain. Silence. Alice nodded, okay, act. Alice went to Gates, security, big guy in black came out to meet. What need? Help, car broke on road, can't start. Not our problem. Please, I'm alone, getting dark, maybe one of men look. Security hesitated, looked at her, beautiful, helpless. Wait. Went away, started talking on radio, distracted. Thomas meanwhile climbed fence from other side, quiet, careful, 30 years in forest, taught move silently. Jumped into yard, looked around. Cars by porch 3 including white Lexus, loaded, ready to go. Gates automatic, controlled by remote probably in-house. But there's another way. Thomas ran to Gates, found mechanism electric with fuse. Pulled wires, shorted, sparks and mechanism stalled, Gates blocked. Noise attracted attention, from house people ran out, security too, saw Thomas, shouted stop, stand. Thomas ran aside to bushes. Behind, stomping, shouts, shot, bullet overhead into tree. Thomas fell, rolled, jumped up, ran further. Another shot, miss. Reached fence, vaulted over, rolled down slope into bushes, into darkness. Heart pounding, hands shaking, alive, for now alive. Next hour chaos, Crimson tried open Gates, didn't work, mechanism broken, need repair. Called master, he come only morning. Crimson shouted, raged, understood trap. And then they arrived, 3 cars, no markings but with people in uniform, Abkhaz police, real not bought. Sparks called, negotiated, made it. Thomas watched from hiding as they led Crimson in handcuffs, put in car, his wife, assistants, 5 people caught, finally caught. Crimson extradited week later, complicated negotiations, diplomatic channels, but worked. Brought to Moscow under escort in handcuffs, met by cameras, journalists, scandal across country. Trial started 3 months later, Thomas attended every day, every session, sat in first row, watched. Crimson changed, thinner, haggard, eyes shifty, scared, no more confident smile, authoritative gaze, ordinary man, ordinary killer. Testimonies from all, Simmons, Alice, surviving witnesses, relatives of dead cried, shouted. Crimson silent, denied all, slander, provocation. But evidence, photos, records, testimonies, 7 bodies identified, 7 murders proven. Sentence: life for Crimson, Victoria, 3 assistants. When Judge read, Thomas looked at Crimson directly in eyes. Crimson looked away, couldn't stand. After trial, Thomas went out to street. November, cold, gray, year passed since found Alice in forest, year, and everything changed. Alice approached, stood nearby. How you? Don't know, honestly, answered Thomas, empty somehow. Justice prevailed. Yes, but won't return Emily. Silence. Alice took his hand. She'd be proud of you, what you did.